This week on thERINpy, it's podcaster, author, content creator Dominique Sachse. She's a former TV news anchor for almost 30 years, whose passion is inspiring women to step into their confidence, embrace their beauty, and live with intention. Through storytelling, self care, and personal growth, Dominique helps women create a life that feels as good as it looks. Yes, please. I want all of her insight, all of her secrets, beauty, fitness, relationships, all the things. If this episode resonates with you, please consider sending it to a friend, sharing it on social media. Hey, maybe even taking 2 seconds to leave thERINpy a review on Apple Podcasts. And now your weekly dose of thERINpy with Dominique Sachse. thERINpy is me getting coaching, and there's not anything about your life that I don't want to learn from. Like, you're absolutely
Oh.
stunning and gorgeous, your career, your
Mm.
marriage, but I know that it's not your first. And
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of a divorce. So you are here
Yeah.
today to share all the things. And as a podcaster and content creator myself, I said this when I was on your show, you are goals. Like, I need you to know how much I
Thank you,
respect what you
Erin.
do.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
hard to build what you have built. And I see you and wanted to give you your flowers one more time.
Thank you. Well, that's so kind, and I graciously and humbly receive and appreciate it. And I will give you my honest expertise. I kind of use that word loosely. I'm not a professional. I always say I'm a student of life. I am always learning, and I think that I don't believe in gatekeeping. I think it's really, really important that we pass along nuggets, wisdom, life lessons learned to be able to help those who are under us, maybe think twice about a certain thing or think, oh, I didn't realize that or hadn't considered that. So it's a disservice if we don't share what we know and what we've learned.
Absolutely. Let's start
Thank
with your
you.
story. I know that you're an only child. As
Yes.
a firstborn, I found a lot of intersection between a driven only child and firstborn. I listened to your episode you did with your mom, and it seemed like
Oh,
you didn't feel like anything was lacking. You were happy
no.
and content to be only child.
Loved it. I loved
Okay.
it. I would see I had one best friend growing up as a child who was also an only. She and I were very similar in that we were both creatives. We could easily entertain ourselves. We could lock ourselves in a room and spend hours coming up with a dance recital or do art or write poetry or short stories. I love that. And then I would go to my friends' houses where there were siblings, and all I would hear is yelling and screaming. And I'm just like, I think I got the best end of this deal. Now, I say that jokingly. I've seen beautiful sibling relationships where, in this stage of life and you're losing parents, that's a really nice thing to have. That is comfort and a framework and a fabric that is so deeply rooted and so familiar that you and I, we won't know. But you have to take what you know and what's given to you and you make the most of it. And I felt like I never had to make that happen. It was my way. It was what I knew. I'm innately a creative, and I also innately love my quiet space and my alone time. So it all kind of aligned for me, and it enabled me to kind of pursue paths that were sort of God-given seeds to me. I didn't realize it as a child, but all of these things that I grew and cultivated are things that I use in my everyday life today. So, love being an only. Yeah, it makes you kind of nose to the grindstone kind of person, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
It served you well. I will say
Yeah,
that.
it's served me well.
That drive, was growing up, was journalism, like, always the plan?
Yeah.
That was the goal? No? Okay, talk about that.
No, it really wasn't. So okay, it's funny. I was a sophomore in high school when MTV debuted. And I was like, wait, whoa, what is that? Music, television, and all my favorite artists, I can now see and these videos and the performance. And there are these VJs that are hip and young and cool and they're talking and presenting all this stuff. So actually that kind of was the bug that bit me
Yeah.
as I want to be, but it was I want to be a broadcaster. I always loved communicating. I always loved talking. I was never shy. I that was just sort of my wheelhouse. And news to me, now think about this. I grew up in the 80s, and back then, I mean, it was very kind of stoic, older male, harsh presentation. I didn't see myself in that role whatsoever. No fun, no bueno. So I thought, okay, it's going to be music, it's going to be entertainment, all of that, fashion, whatever. E.T. was also out. Loved Mary
Uh-huh.
Hart. She was like the queen of entertainment tonight. Um, so news actually fell into my lap later on, and it's kind of a funny story. And the timing and what was happening really aligned with me, but it was not what I set out to do. I actually set out to be more on the entertainment side of things.
And God had other plans.
He
Metro
sure did.
traffic reporter to overnight DJ. And then
Yeah.
at 24, you end up on TV in a big market with no
Yes.
TV experience.
None whatsoever. What? So I'm like, are you sure you want me to do this? I mean, really, are you sure? Are you seeing straight? And I tell you, Erin, it's just, God is so funny how he just aligns everything in such a way where we couldn't have done these things on our own. And all of this was happening at a time where the TV station that I work for was owned by the Hobby family in Houston. And it was being bought by Washington Post Newsweek. So it was in transition. When those things happen and sales happen, you don't know what's going to happen with management. On air staff, everything usually
Mm-mm.
gets blown up. So we
Sure.
were sort of in the middle of the blow up phase. I didn't know if I was still going to have a job as a traffic reporter, none of that. And one week, I was doing the traffic for the morning show. One of the anchors went on vacation. The acting news director at the time said, I'd like you to fill in and do news for that week. And again, I'm like, I've never anchored, right? I mean, this isn't in my wheelhouse. And he's like, yeah, but I think you can do it.
Yes.
Okay, if you think I can do it. So I was with my co-anchor, and he was so gracious and kind and kind of holding my hand through the whole thing and walking me through, and I'm asking a million questions. And breaking news hits: the San Jacinto River fire happens. It was a pipeline that ran under the river that caught fire, and it was just destroying homes and property in its wake. It was a big breaking news story, and now we're doing like wall to wall breaking news coverage during that week that I'm filling in as an anchor.
Perfect.
But perfect. But here's what I found out, and here's how much all the things that we do, we never know how one step is going to lead to the other. But when I was in radio, the beautiful gift about radio was that it taught me how to ad lib and to feel comfortable with a mic in front of me and not being scripted, because you have to process what you need to say, think about it, and then say it and make it sound very relatable and conversational. And that's a hard thing to do. And to do it when you're young and you just kind of don't quite feel like you have grown into your skin yet. So radio was amazing training ground for me to now handle breaking news coverage, because that's exactly what you're doing. You're getting information bit by bit. You're having to process it and then spit it out conversationally in a relatable way, and then factor in interviews with officials out in the field, tossing to reporters on the field. So it's this very fluid back and forth thing. And I actually felt more comfortable doing that than
Yeah.
reading the teleprompter, which was a very new thing for me too. So all of that was happening. And the new management who was coming in with the new company saw me do that, and I got offered basically the morning show role as a news anchor. And I never ever would have thought, like I told you before, never saw myself doing it, but I got to be me. I got to just
Yes.
talk and be relatable and not pretend like I'm somebody that I'm not. And I got to be a communicator and a broadcaster. And then there's this deep sense of, wow, I'm serving my community. I'm providing information that can help people make decisions or help save lives. And that has purpose and value. And I thought, I'm home.
Oh
I'm
my
home.
God. Dominique,
Isn't that
I didn't
crazy?
realize how I didn't know that story.
It's
How
crazy.
things just align, and it's like God has
Yes.
a plan, whether you know it or not. And it takes one person to see something in you, maybe before
Mm.
you even see it. I got this show. I was a stay at home mom. And during
See?
COVID, I was going live on Instagram and I was like, what the hell is everyone doing? I have a 2 and a 4-year-old and their schools are
Right.
closed and the gyms are closed. And I was being my authentic self. There was no other angle. It wasn't an
Yep.
audition. And a radio station program director was watching me every week and gave
Yes.
me this show. But I wasn't trying to get a show. I was just being me, and it fell
Yep.
in my lap. And I've never loved anything more. I share these vulnerable conversations and I know
Mm.
that this is what I'm supposed to do. But I never, if it was like podcast one is looking for a new host, I never would have intentionally
Yeah.
auditioned for something like this. What is for you will find you when you put yourself out into the world authentically and organically. It makes me think too, like the hustle mentality and like you know what you want and like following up. Sometimes
Mhm.
that's more of like a force energy. And if you just kind of sit back in receiving energy and flow state. I remember Denise Austin did my show and she was like, I would call the Today Show every single day and it would be
Yeah.
the same person. And they'd be like, there's nothing this week. There's nothing this week. And then she's like, one day I was like, it's 6 o'clock at night. Why don't I just call now? I usually call at 9 a.m. She calls again. And like the senior vice president answers the phone and she was like, hello. And she's like 20. She goes, my name is Denise Austin. And I feel like you guys should have a fitness segment. She cold pitches the
Mhm.
the head of, and then he was like, well, that's great. Come in. Brings her in. She's on that Saturday because it was like, sometimes like it is like a hustle thing. Like, do you feel like it's more a balance of like going for what you want? Like I worry about like being too pushy with like opportunities,
Mm.
but also
Yes.
following up because what if they forget about
Yes.
you? Like learning the balance of like not being desperate.
Well, I agree with you. It's an ebb and a flow, and I think
Yes.
that, we have to I think God plants seeds in us, right? We are
Yes.
gifted with talents, and they're not ours. They're loaned to us. And it is for us to be good stewards of those talents. So I think what it is, and this is how I see it. God does his part. Those are those unexplainable, unshakable, unmistakable opportunities that you can't put a pulse on it, right?
Yes.
He's
Yes.
moving mountains behind the scenes. At the same time, you have stewardship over these talents and you must water, feed, cultivate, plant, make that phone call at 9 a.m., make that phone call at 6 p.m. You've got to do the hustle as well. And while you're doing your part, he's doing his part. And it is the harmony of those two things that come together that really brings out what it is that you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, how you're supposed to do it in fruition. So it
Okay.
feels like a flow. And that's always been my sense that if I am, and that even goes to relationships as well, if it's
Yes.
not flowing, something's off. Either this isn't what our heavenly father designed for us, or we're pushing too hard, we're fighting too hard. There's no symbiosis, and you got to pay attention to that, because
Yes.
am I going after what I want here? Am I trying to make this thing happen? Is this my view and vision for my life or not? And sometimes
Okay.
what we want for ourselves isn't what is destined for ourselves.
Rejection is protection. If you're not
Absolutely.
getting it, you're being protected. I'll give you a
Yeah.
specific example. I'm very close to booking a segment on Live with Kelly and Mark. It is
Ah,
my bread and butter piece about what women are modeling and body image for their daughters.
mhm.
And it almost got on in January, last January. And then they were like, we will get you on. I have this like, I'm very anxious, like they're going to forget about me if I don't follow up. But I don't want it to get to the point where they're like, Erin, we know we'll get like, I'm walking a line that like I want to
Mhm.
stay on their radar. Like should I just like follow up with the producer, like check on how are you doing, like what's going on, like not
Mhm.
segment specific, and like how much is too much. They know me, I'm on the radar, they've got the pitch, and my publicist is like, it's timing. It's gonna, when it comes across that they need
Yes.
body image or parenting, but I want them to not forget about me, but don't want to be desperate. So I'm
Yeah.
walking this fine line. So I wanted to get your advice there. Like, how often am I following up?
I always err on the side of being too pushy versus not pushy
Okay.
enough.
Okay. And
That's
look at
me.
you.
That is what has worked for me, but there
Okay.
are nuances and subtleties in how to do that so that you
Okay.
don't sound pushy. So
Okay.
it could be something as simple as, "Hey, hope you're having a great week. Just wanted to check in. I know we've been punting back and forth on possible dates. I'm super excited. My platform is really getting scheduled and super
Oh,
busy. So if you guys, are still interested, would love to maybe throw out some schedule ideas or whatnot, because I want to make sure that I don't miss this opportunity, but let you know at the same time I'm really starting to fill up this spring."
I'm
So
in high
that way,
demand. I like that. You created a sense of urgency.
yes, you
You guys
sure
have
did.
okay, I never considered that. Okay.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it was done. It's not pushy. The way you did it. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yes. So
Okay.
again, ping them, because here's the thing too, and with television shows, this happens a lot. There can be last minute cancellations. So they've got to have somebody at the ready. If a booking falls through, or, whatever, somebody's got to be there. And you could be timing that little nudge just at the right time when maybe somebody's backing out or there's a hole or whatever. It's like, Erin, she's perfect
Yeah.
right now. Let's do it.
Okay. Okay.
You
Okay.
don't
I
know.
feel better about, because I don't want to alienate. I would never want him to like see my name and be like, oh my, like we
Right.
know. I don't want to be that, but I don't want him to forget about me either. So
I
like
think
a
it's
couple
all in
months,
how you couch it, how you
yeah,
phrase it, how you kind of tee yourself up with it.
I like how you did it.
You're a
Um,
savvy girl.
Thank you. Sometimes I wanted to talk to you about pivoting in your career when you've already
Sure.
like established yourself and you know that it works and you're financially like everything is working in TV news and you pivot. Like talk me through you were kind of not feeling it anymore and you were more called to do content creation. Like
Yeah.
when did you start feeling that way? How did you know? And then how was that pivot over to what you're doing now?
It was interesting. I had been feeling like tugs at my heart for a couple of years that this was no longer serving me. The news business,
Yep.
that it was reaching its cutoff. I worked at my local TV station in Houston for 28 years, which was a really, really long stretch. Um, I would have loved to have left the news business a little bit sooner. Um, but my previous marriage and situation, I was just, it was one of those things where I really wanted to let go, and yet I was encouraged. Why would you want to let it go? You're so good at it. It's easy money. Why would you want to
Yeah.
walk away from that? And I'm like, but it's not speaking to my heart anymore. And I'm seeing the business go in a direction that I don't like. And it's not about, truth telling, and it's becoming more agenda driven and not fact based. And that was not congruent with me. So I honestly, I wish I could have left it a little bit earlier, but I wrote it out. I had a contract that was ending, and it was a weird transition because I also was leaving my marriage at the same time. And I
Yeah.
kind of felt like my whole life was blowing up, to be honest with you. I mean, it was just everything was shaking, everything was mayhem, to put it bluntly. And this going through a divorce, it is mayhem. There is no other way to put it. It is brutal. It is painful when there are children involved. It is excruciating. Um, it is a financial blow up. There are often things in discovery that you're like, wait, what? So
Mhm.
I felt like I was getting hit from all sides, and it was a little bit of shock and awe. It was, part joy to leave, to finally be leaving the industry that I no longer had my heart in, but I was also leaving a guaranteed paycheck, health insurance, and a 401k and pension.
Right,
So
exactly.
I'm walking away from the whole security blanket in every form, and I am turning into, this whole YouTube podcasting is a very fluid thing, and ad rates can change, and ad buyers can change, and sponsorships and all of that is in flux. So
Yeah.
one month can be super great, another month could be okay. It was
Yeah,
and then it was frightening. It was
sure.
very, very scary. But at the same time, it was something I knew I had to do for a multitude of reasons. And as a believer, I have to trust in
Yeah,
God and that He's
yes.
got me. He will not drop me. And if everything is happening because it's in alignment, and nobody wants a marriage to end, right? You want to be able to find resolution and find solution and try. And certainly if you go there and you exhaust all efforts and you try and whatever it is, or you discover things that are just not, you can't mend that fence anymore, then you have
Mhm.
to move on, and you just have to trust that you're going to be carried through that season. And it may be ugly and scary, and you may see bank accounts drop to numbers that you hadn't seen in a while, and you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to make it? You're going to make it. You are
Yes.
going to make it, and it may be horrifying, but those are the moments where we have to dig in deep and where we've got to press into our faith, and we just have to trust. And we may not know the way, we may not see the way, but he provides the way. And I really, really had to settle into that and to just calm myself in a very, very stressful time. So yeah, it was a very odd transition. And then on top of it, a few months later, my book was launching,
Oh
which
God.
is called Life Makeover. I guess, okay, I'm the poster child of my own
You're like,
writing.
I'm gonna live what I preach.
I am living what I preach, and it,
For
it talks
sure.
a lot about overcoming fear, a lot. And I did have to walk through that, and I did have to live it at many times in my life. But that was kind of the crux of it all coming together. And not only did I get through it, but I came through it so much better, so much wiser, so much more hopeful, and it led to a cascading of events that literally turned my life around.
You could say you're flourishing, if you will.
Yes.
And I do
You
want to get
could.
into relationships, but this last
Yes.
part on career, I think I talked about this on your show where people stay in the excellent and don't go to the exceptional because
Mhm.
you have the paycheck, and your excellent was TV news, and like you said,
Yeah.
there's a teleprompter. You're exceptional being off the teleprompter and just you have grown just showing here's a day in my life. It's like 2
Yeah.
million views. Like you need to not be held in a box or held to a teleprompter. And you
Yes.
could have stayed in excellent and you took a chance. And just knowing that backstory with like the financial strains on you with the divorce and you still did it anyway, you're giving
Mhm.
somebody else permission that's listening right now to just have that faith. Do you follow Tamsin Fidel by chance, the
Of course,
menopause?
she's a dear friend. Yes.
I just got goosebumps. I
Yeah,
did
she's
a
a
sh
dear
I
friend.
was on Pix 11 new like, just doing my body image segment. She was a,
Yep.
anchor, and she's standing there, Pix 11 News, and I was like, we really vibed when I did my segment, so I start
Yes.
following her. I was like, "I would love for you to do my show." This is, like, 2 years ago. She gets on my show and she's like, "I am feeling called to walk away from journalism." It's very
Mhm.
much like yours, but she's like, "But
Very.
it's all I've done my whole life." She steps away and is now like this renowned menopause expert, something
I
that she
know.
did not have a background in, but she had this calling that there was something bigger and it was scary. And now it's like, look what she has built. And she would still be at that anchor desk if she didn't take this like chance on herself without
Mhm.
knowing. Again, she stepped out of excellence and you had a similar thing. There's something more. You're just sitting in this comfortable thing, but if you're feeling the pulls and the tugs and it may not make sense, you have to
Yep.
follow that because there's something more for you and it doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. It's like other people would be like, you're leaving this job, they're not getting, the calling is for you if you're feeling it, so you can't, you just have to trust. And you and Tamsin
Mhm.
both so beautifully transition into what is your exceptional, and it's very inspiring.
Well, and you know what I love about what you just brought up too is that people will come in your lives at the right time to give you the right things you need to hear. And Tamsin and I both did because we were both following each other online. And she had me on her show and I had her on my show. And we've been on each other's
Oh,
back and forth before. We developed a friendship immediately, kind of cut from the same cloth type thing. She even has family in the Houston area.
oh
The just
yeah.
the rooting and the connection is so deep. But I remember I had already broken camp from news. She was still doing it, but she was feeling this calling toward this menopause space. So she was
Yeah.
asking me a lot of questions about transitioning over and what does it look like and how do you structure it and all of this and all that. And I was just kind of sharing with her what I've learned and know and how I've grown and all of that and how to trust all of that. But and I remember telling her, if you're not feeling it anymore and you are feeling this call towards something else, trust it, go with it. I said your heart is going to sing. You're going to come alive again. And the thing is that you can oftentimes, and this happens to men a lot, you can tie up your identity in what you do instead of who you are. And I think when you've done something as long as she and I have in the same industry, well, you're the news lady. Anywhere you go, you're the news lady. And that becomes a part of who you are. And you have to let go of that. And it's like, well, what if I'm not the news lady anymore? Am I still of value? Am I still contributing? Am I still bringing something? Am I still holding weight in some way, having impact? Yeah, you are, just not in the news lady form anymore. But you
Yeah.
have to let go of that identity and not let it be a driver of who you are and what you do. And those labels and monikers can oftentimes keep us stuck in places where we don't belong anymore. And I don't believe that we are meant to be in one lane all the time for the rest of our lives. I think we have a lot of things and a lot of different areas and talents to cultivate. And seasonally, as well as we mature, as our priorities change, as our needs, our lifestyle, all of that, we have to be dialed in and change with it and not be, again, and it roots back to fear, not be fearful of what that looks like or what we think it's going to look like.
Dominique, my first book was called Squats and Margaritas, and now I don't drink.
Yes.
I had to pivot and I had to evolve.
Yes.
And but you worry about like you losing your credibility. It's like I'm this fitness girl and now I talk about mental health, but
Right.
it wasn't aligned anymore, which is a beautiful segue into
See?
relationships.
Yes.
When I stepped into this, and it's very funny that you just said that about men and their identity. My husband was an
Hmm.
NFL linebacker for
Right.
9 years and then it was over. And he struggles to find
Struggled.
what's next. Yes, and he when you retire at 32, you have a lot of
Yeah.
life left to live, and some people went into broadcasting and some went into coaching, and he
Hmm.
hasn't found his lane. So when his
Way.
career ended, I got this opportunity and I never it's sad to say, but like I just didn't see anything for myself beyond being a stay-at-home mom. Not that there is anything wrong with that, but I had no aspirations to do anything else. But again, this came to me. I didn't seek it out, and I'm not going to stop doing it. And I am
Hmm.
hustling it, and I'm going to continue to grow it. And that I know this is what I'm supposed to do. But when this happened, my marriage went the other way. I think he didn't
Yep.
know how to support. And I feel like you might have had a similar story with an
Yep.
ex-husband. Yes, that we may be able to. How did you? Was that your first husband or your second husband that didn't
Uh,
feel supported?
when I left the news business, it was second husband.
And
First
that's
husband, yeah,
go ahead, please.
yeah, so it's similar, and grateful that and there's another important dynamic that that's critical to talk about, especially as women are so prominent in the workforce and are doing so well. There can be balance shifts in the marriage. And how does the marriage handle that? And you just spoke beautifully to that, and that it can be a problem because men by nature are seen as providers, caregivers. That's the culture, that's how we're raised, that's biology, the whole hunter gatherer thing, and all of that. um but it's not so much anymore. And so how do you morph with these norms, societal norms, and how things are supposed to look, as well as intrinsic needs, right? Because I think that it's a weird dichotomy, and tell me if you felt this way. I feel very proud and accomplished that I am a breadwinner, that I am a provider, that I can do all of these things, that I've been able to rise to a level that not only satisfies me deeply, but can also, can pay for the roof over the head, groceries, all of those things. It's a wonderful feeling to be able to be there. And at the same time, there can be this interesting thing because as a woman, you still want to feel provided for in a way. Now, it may not look the same way. I mean, it doesn't have to be, well, you have to make more money than me, right? It doesn't have to be that. But there's got to be some kind of provision and some kind of feeling like you've got me. God forbid something should happen and, I don't have all of this anymore. I need to know that you've got me in certain ways. And if it gets too unbalanced, right, then there's no longer that feeling. Then you feel like you're the male in the relationship. You're the dude, and you're
Yeah.
doing all the things, and the guy is lost, and he doesn't have his compass, and he doesn't have his purpose, and it does create a very strange shift in how a couple can feel about each other. In my first marriage, my husband became a stay-at-home dad, which was such a blessing for me, especially as a working mom in the news business, strange hours, all of that. So I had peace and comfort that my son was home with his dad, while I was at work. And then I was home with him. And I mean, I had crazy hours. I would be up with Styles from 6 in the morning until noon. And then I would get ready for work. And then I'd come home for dinner from like 6 until 8:30, give him his bath, put him to bed, go back to work, do the late news, come home and be asleep by midnight, and then start the day at 6 a.m. with my son again. I mean, it was wild.
And wasn't your
But
son like colicky or like he was sick, like had a lot of
yes,
so you're
colicky.
tired and
Oh,
like that's a whole nother element on top.
girl. It is a total other layer, a thick,
Mhm.
heavy layer. It was
Okay, okay.
hard. It was hard. So
Sure.
that was hard on the marriage. And then, as my son got older, I kind of expected my husband to go back to work and just want to do that. And it just never happened. And there was sort of this getting lost, for a guy of, stay at home and then just not having that motivation and that desire to start pursuing something again. And then I felt this incredible imbalance that was starting to happen. And it wasn't healthy and it wasn't right. And it got lost. And on top of it, just the strain and the stress of raising a colicky son and then me doing that on top of my news shifts. I was lost and absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
So, sadly, that's what led to the demise of that marriage.
Can I ask something really quick
Luckily,
about that marriage?
yeah,
How did you I would say, how did you know it was over? And then how long did you try to make it work for Styles and try to keep the family together before you
a while.
actually ended it? Okay,
A
same.
while. I knew, I
Okay.
knew, I knew. I kept trying. I kept, trying to be the appeaser and the peacemaker and push through and work through. And I just kept putting the burden on me. It just became, or I was, kept trying to encourage, well, you can do this. And I felt like I was enabling too much, instead of drawing a hard line and saying, look, this is unhealthy. This needs to change for this marriage. You've got to have a purpose and passion too, and I can't be floating the boat for everybody.
Yes.
Uh,
I'm
it
in
was
that right now, like trying to pull him
yes,
out of a hole. Like I
yes,
I'm in therapy
yes,
like, but vows, I
yes,
made vows better or worse. And my therapist is like, you
yes,
did not make a vow to pull him out of a hole
yes,
that he is digging himself. And a
yes,
grown man has to want to change. She's like, you're taking on too much. But I'm like,
yep,
isn't that my job as the wife?
yep,
And we made
yep,
vows in front of God. And she's like, you have
yep,
to I felt
girl,
like you might. Yes, I was so
you are
hard on myself for filing when I gave up on him. I still have
same
guilt
thing,
about that. But at what point is it bringing you down too? And also, just because this
right?
came up, I listened to your interview with your mom. You said you told her, I wish you would have divorced earlier. And as a
Totally,
child, can you share
totally.
that for anyone that's listening? Like, well, at
Yep.
least I'm staying for my kids and I'm putting that in quotes.
It's terrible because you are modeling a bad marriage to your children. You are modeling what dysfunction looks like. You are modeling arguing and yelling in front of kids, which was my dynamic. You are modeling what is so unhealthy instead of showing courage, instead of doing the right thing. Um, it I begged, I saw how toxic it was. I saw how it was not fixable, and I saw fear in my mom, especially not being able to sustain and make it on her own and staying in for that comfort. And it was terrible. And I just started getting away from the house. I would leave the house. I got jobs. I worked all the time. I went to school. I didn't want to be in the house because it didn't feel home. It didn't
Get
feel
it?
warm, loving, cozy, safe. It felt toxic. I didn't know what I was going to come home to that day. So I was gone. I became an adult at 13 and a half. So you're
Wow.
depriving your child of true comfort, true safety, the true meaning of what a loving union is by staying in something that's unhealthy and toxic and not what it should be. Now, can you make those efforts and work through? Yeah, but it takes two parents willing to do that, to work on themselves individually, to work together as a couple together, and then to be able to have progress. Yes, it can happen. A dream if it happens. Does it always happen? No. So staying in it for the children, I mean, what are you giving them?
Exactly. My last straw was my kids brought me a calm down dinner from their play kitchen because
Yep.
they were in the basement and like out of sight, out of mind, and we were yelling. And they were like, Mommy,
Yes.
you're yelling at daddy. Here's a calm down dinner. And I was like, you have to go. And then I pictured some of the behaviors that my daughter had witnessed. And the next time, if a man was like yelling at her, getting close to her, she's going to say, oh, wait, I've seen this. This is love. This is what mommies and
Hmm.
daddies do. And that
Right.
she would come home and I would never be like, well, honey, that's your husband. Like, or not supporting my career. And
Mm.
I think he's like, it was because he signed up for a stay at home mom, which is fair. And like when I evolved into this, he
Mhm.
was like, not attracted to this version of me. So now
Sure.
I'm dating as this version of me. And so I was very excited about finally putting out into the world who I actually am, and finally like found self-love after, my history of like abusing
Mhm.
my body and all these things
Yes.
after 40. And now I can date as this person. But it's so like, I did you date in between, like after divorce? Like, did you do apps? Like, how do you meet someone without, I don't know. I don't want to be on an app. I feel like a sitting duck on an app. How am I just going to meet someone in the wild? Like, I
Yeah, in
don't,
the
I don't know
wild.
how to do that. I need to meet them in the wild, because what if it's catfishing? What if that's not the
Yes.
person and they're pretending to be
Yeah.
someone else? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. How is dating after divorce for you?
Well, I mean, it was kind of interesting because after, my first marriage ended, I was like, No, I need me
Okay.
time. It's been enough. It's been enough marriage, enough relate. I wasn't ready yet." And it's kind of funny because I was out to lunch with my mother and a dear friend of mine from college. And we were sitting outside in the patio and just having a lovely time, and it was great. And then all of a sudden there was a group kind of off to the right, big table, and my friend knew everybody at that group. So one by one they all started coming over. A few of them I knew, most of them I didn't. But in that group was my soon to be next husband who came
Wow. You
over
met
and
him in the
introduced
wild.
in the wild. Not when I was looking, not when I was wanting,
Yeah.
nothing, nothing, nothing,
Okay.
nothing. So anyway, that's how we met, and it was hello, hello, and type thing. And apparently he reached out to my friend and inquired about me, and then my friend had a party like a month later, and it was a small gathering. It was just close friends with children. So I brought my son, who was 5 at the time. He brought his older daughter, who was just going into college. And so we met each other there, and then we started talking, and then he said, could I take you out to dinner? And I was like, sure. So yeah, we met in the wild by a swimming pool. and
Okay.
and then I
Organically.
said yes.
Okay. Well,
So
I
it was
would be
very
open to something like
organic,
that. Okay.
It was not, none of the app stuff or any of that.
I'm
So
just so I'm not used to it. Like, and
I
I will say it's
know.
been 3 years. For the first year and a half, I was on the couch with my dog. Like, I had no interest. It's been the last
Yes.
year that I've kind of been like,
Yeah.
I would like to go out to dinner, like share my life with somebody, but I don't know
Yeah.
how to
How?
navigate. Yes. And then it's like I started talking to somebody, and it's the inconsistency of like texting,
Mm,
like they're there and it's the little dopamine hit when you get a text from them. And then like 2 days will go by and there's nothing. And then I'm
yes.
like, I don't want to put myself out there because I don't want to feel these things. I realize I have to. So Vic was somebody
Yes.
that you knew from your past, but you realize you manifested him exactly as you described. Can we share
Oh
what
my
you
gosh.
wanted and then what who you're married to?
Yes. Yes. So, okay. Uh, yeah. It's so funny. I guess I tried to make things work for me, and certainly, the gentlemen who were in my life, I have respect for. I have, no matter how wrong or how bad or how much you can say you were wronged or whatever, I don't believe in harboring resentment or having grudges. You have to release that. We are sinned, flawed humans. People make mistakes. Period, including us.
Mhm.
So I release all of that, and still have respect and appreciation for the good that was there.
Yeah.
I co-parent with my first husband beautifully. We have a great co-parenting relationship. Our son is our pride and joy, and we share that, and we are a good team in that respect. So, moving past all of that, I can see where I was trying to make things work that weren't right for me. I can see where I was overriding and I can see the undercurrents of things that bothered me in the beginning, or I wasn't sure of in the beginning, or I had questions. Sure enough, those became the real sticking points in the marriage. So pay attention to those signals. Pay attention if there's like a roadblock, if there are like big pieces of wood in the flow of river. Pay attention to that, because there was. And I just figured, again, I can work through it. I can make it happen. I can do, no, you shouldn't have to.
Okay.
So when Vic came into my life again at a time when my mother had just passed, 3.5 weeks past her death,
Wow.
I had been dating somebody for a little while, and it wasn't a healthy relationship. And and you have to be careful of that, because again, you want to make things work, because again, you
You
see
want a
certain things,
connection. Yeah,
you
you
want a
want to just
connection.
something fun.
Certain
Yeah.
things can be firing on all cylinders and feeling great, but you're getting the signals this isn't
Okay.
the right one. So again, you're getting attached, but now you got to let something go. And I had to let that go. I had to let my mother go, and I was just a puddle of mush. I was exhausted. I was emotionally spent. I was not in a happy place at all. And and Vic, who's like somebody from my radio days back in my 20s, who I would occasionally hear from every couple of years, just one of those kind of those random check-ins from somebody from your past. Hey, how's it going? It's your buddy Vic. Just, I'm in town, I'm doing this convention, just thinking about you, hope you're well type thing. And he had reached out, and he was in Houston for Anime Matsuri doing an autograph signing. And he said they were looking for a a celebrity judge for this karaoke contest that he was also judging. And he thought of me, and he's like, I don't know if you're interested, but they'd love to have you. And I said, you know what? Under normal circumstances, yes. But my mom just passed, and I'm really not doing events. I'm not feeling it, but thank you for asking. And he said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. And his first words were, can I pray for you?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, I would appreciate that. And he said, no worries. He said, I'm here for a couple of days. If you need a shoulder to cry on, just want somebody to talk to, or just a meal, I'm here, just letting you know. So I sat on that for about 24 hours, and I'll never forget, Erin. I was just kind of laying on the couch where I had been for 3 weeks, feeling, just, and it was like I could hear my mother say, honey, get up, get off this couch, and go live your life. Go. Stop crying over me and go. So I found my phone. I pulled up his text. I texted him back. I said, you know what? I think I will take that shoulder and a meal. What about Sunday night at 6 o'clock? He's like, great. So he meets me at a restaurant, and just typical how it is with somebody from your past, you immediately pick up where you left off, which was radio and these people and this and that, and filling in all the blanks from then to now. And we found out we had so much in common, so much just in our careers, experiences, marriages, whatnot. And I was wearing, and here's a real interesting little tidbit. I was
Yeah.
wearing a cross necklace, and he said, I love your necklace. And I touched it, and I said, thank you. I said, my faith is everything to me. And he just about melted. And he said, he goes, I'll never forget a time you and I had a talk way back when. And I asked you about your faith, and you said that you didn't have any. You were a non believer, which was
Ugh.
true. Back then,
Wow.
I wasn't. And he said, I always had a thing for you. But when you said that, I just immediately knew it could never be, because
Oh
he
my
said, I'm so
gosh.
strong in my faith, and that's such a big part of my life. And it kind of broke my heart, when you said that, but it was what it was. And so here we were all these years later, having come full circle in life and experience and heartbreak and growth, development, change, God, all the things. And connecting with Vic was that incredible spiritual, what you hope for, what you dream of, this beautiful, respectful flow of two people who are aligned in the most important way. The foundation is God. And
Yeah.
from there, all things grow. And I have never been in something that has felt easier, more beautiful, more loving, more respectful, more fun, more funny, more creative, more anything.
Oh,
It's such joy. And I can finally, and I say this because I want to give people like you, I want to give women hope that you can hit the gas pedal on the love of your life at this stage of your life, and it can blow your mind with how
oh
sweet
my
it
God.
is and how wonderful it is, and just kind of like, oh my gosh, this was worth the wait. This
Oh,
was worth the pain and the heartache and the lessons and the suffering and all of it. It was worth it.
Dominique, that is so inspiring. The traits that you listed in that podcast with your mom, like it was so specific. And you're
Yeah.
like, no, my next relationship, I mean, you were even like, yeah, a good lover, a fit guy. Like you were so many specific characteristics and you got
Mhm.
that. So it's like anybody that
Did.
is like, I don't want to say nobody's going to be perfect. It's like they're dealing with
Yeah.
something or they're acquiescing. Ah, that's fine. You specifically put out what you wanted and he manifested, and it
He
wasn't
totally
aligned
did.
before. Like it was the most specific thing, and he hit everything. So anybody that's like, I mean, height, like you can put specific things. You've shown that, and it can, and maybe it didn't work out with your first two, but like
Mhm.
it can happen. And you reconnected in your 50s.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay,
we
that gives
reconnected in
me so much hope.
2023. It's, 3 years
Mm,
ago.
okay,
August 3 years ago.
I mean,
Here's the other thing too, and this is so important that I wanna share. I almost said no.
why?
I was because I was just not in a great place. And I say that because I don't want you to think that you have to be in this amazing place to say yes.
Okay.
Sometimes it's in the deepest, darkest, I don't feel it. I just feel blech, but sometimes those opportunities are knocking when it feels least comfortable, least sexy, least beautiful, least willing, and I almost said no, and
Mm.
it took me, and it took that lovely voice saying yes, get up, get out there, live your life, say yes. So even if it gets icky or ugly, or you go on these dates or they ghost you or whatever, and the next one
Yes.
comes along and you're like, oh, they've all been horrible and I don't want to expose myself, but maybe that's the yes that needs to be said.
Yes, and I tell myself I have been ghosted twice. I'm very open about that. I tell myself
Mm.
it's data. Like I'm learning what I will not be
Yes.
accepting of. And then so the next time if I start seeing that again, I'm like, no, I know this. I've seen this before. So it's collecting data until I find my person
Hmm.
and not
Right.
I don't have to make any sacrifices. Like I don't if there's something I don't like, I don't need a relationship right now. So
Right.
it's gonna have to be a pretty high bar that they would have to meet. But I would like to meet someone, but I'm not sacrificing anything anymore. Like I did that for too long and putting up, like you said, like you feel, it's not aligned anymore. And I guess I was
Hmm.
just thinking, like, well, that's what marriage is. Like
Right.
everybody has to compromise. And I was compromising on everything. And for you to say you have found, and I'm sure it's not perfect and you do compromise, but like you can
Mhm.
find someone so aligned that it's not a constant, like banging of heads. And it's just, or they were aligned. In my 20s, we were so aligned. I was just on his arm at football. We were very aligned. But then you evolve, and maybe these two
Mm.
people 20 years
Mhm.
later are not aligned anymore. And you can't
Right.
force a pole in a round peg or whatever that analogy is.
Square peg, round
Um,
hole.
Square peg, round hole. Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
I cannot leave wellness off the
Mhm.
table. I see that we only have like 5 more minutes. Talk
Okay.
about the power of investing in your beauty. Like you make
Ah,
it, I mean, look at yourself. If anybody's not watching this episode and listening, you glow. You probably never felt better and never looked better. And can we share your age?
yeah, I'll be
58.
59 this year.
And you are absolutely stunning. Talk about the
Thank
power
you.
of investing in your beauty and your wellness.
Well, I've always enjoyed the creative aspect of it. I've always enjoyed hair, makeup, wardrobe. To me, I see it as a blank canvas every morning, and it's like, what do I want to paint today? What do I want to
Yeah.
create? So there's an artist in me who loves dabbling in the paint brushes, aka makeup brushes, and creating different colors and palettes and schemes. And I change my hair all the time and my hair color. I mean, I'm kind of known for that, just
Uh-huh.
because I love the creative expression of it. It's joyful for me. So there's always been that, let's say, artistic side. Um, I also learned, my first husband was in the fitness industry, and I learned, married to him, the value of lifting heavy
Yes.
weights and nutrition. So that became kind of the cornerstone for me on how I was going to live and move the rest of my life. And I've incorporated other things in there. I, took on a yoga practice that I really liked, wonderful for the stretching and the calm and the quiet, but I still go to the gym. I still lift heavy. I'm very dialed into nutrition. I eat healthy, plant-based food. I eat a lot of protein. So, that to me, and the way I see it, Erin, is what, all these things that I did in my 30s and 40s and now 50s will all determine how I'm going to live and move and function in my 80s and, God willing, 90s. I
Yeah.
want an active body. I want to be able to lift the luggage up into the compartment. I want to be able to hold up my grandkid. I want to be able to
Yes.
do things, move, with movement, fluidity. I don't want to be bent over. I want to be upright. I want to be healthy and strong. I don't want to break a bone and fall. So I'm trying to tee myself up for a great and joyful future. And I won't even say
Yes.
the word retirement because I hope to still be doing this because I think I'm still going to have something to say when I'm 80. And I
Yeah.
think there's going to be a body of women out there who will want a voice or voices from women who are of that age and still contributing. And I see that as being the determiner of how my brain's going to age and just having purpose in life as I become an older woman and still feeling like I'm doing something, still feeling like I'm tapping into that creativity and still feeling like I'm having impact. And in the end, isn't that what it's all about?
Yes, you are having so much impact, and I will be your subscriber in my 70s. Three more things. When
Yes.
you talk about eating, I know you don't eat till like noon. Intermittent
Yeah.
fasting?
Hmm.
Okay, talk to me about like why I should be doing that, and then like what is typically your first meal, and then what's your like I don't eat after this time.
Yeah, I try to do, and I have found it just works for me. And here's the interesting thing too. I don't believe so much in rules. I believe in listening to your body. Your body's going to tell you what it needs. And I just found that as I got older, a couple of things happened. First of all, I like to eat earlier. Menopause can just be a whammy. It can throw things into a tailspin, hormones, life changes, all of that. I
Uh-huh.
too don't drink alcohol anymore. Alcohol became a
Nice.
major sleep disruptor for me. So I literally gave it up at the beginning of the year. I'm like, what do I need this for? You're going to ruin my sleep?
That's
No.
when I gave it up.
You
January, I
too?
started.
But yeah,
Took,
January.
like, 2 months, but your
Yes.
skin and your sleep
Oh,
are it's worth it.
it's wild how
I
I don't
know.
wake up puffy anymore. I don't wake up with weird like fluid retention under my
Yes.
eyes. None of
Even
that.
just
And
like a
I,
glass of wine or 2, I was waking up like that. Like, not
yes,
I
me
wasn't
too.
binge drinking. So it's not worth 1 glass
Same.
of wine for looking like that.
Same.
Yes.
I'm the
Okay.
same. I was a very light drinker too. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what's one glass gonna hurt? Yeah,
Same.
your eyes, your
Yeah.
face, you're gonna be a
It's gonna
puff,
hurt,
you're
right?
gonna be a blowfish in the morning. No. So
Yes.
yeah, gone.
And now you
Um,
sleep like a bear, you say?
I sleep so much better. And on top of it, now I'm like one of those people who's like, can we eat like at 5:30, 6 o'clock at night? I'd be
Yeah.
really great with that. Because I also sleep better when there's enough separation between that meal and when I go to bed. I also
Okay.
love going to bed at 10:30 at night, not 11:30, not 12. So if I eat like at 6:30, I give myself a good 3.5, 4 hour window for my digestion to clear and for my body to be able to rest. And then I like to go until about like I haven't eaten today. I don't we're probably getting close to noon
Yeah.
and I can feel like okay, I'm ready. So
Okay.
oftentimes I'll mix it up. I may do a protein and a collagen smoothie with some frozen berries. I'll do a couple of eggs with an Ezekiel muffin and some avocado. So it's like whatever I'm
Nice.
feeling, I'll do. I always make sure that I've got protein, and fat and some kind of grain in everything that I eat so that I've got a balance between all three.
Okay. Um, I want you to be able to go eat. Real quick, if you were sent to a desert island, they said you
Yeah.
could bring one beauty item. What are you taking?
Oh my gosh. So, okay, I always joked that I've used Lancino, that's for like the cracked nipples when you breastfeed
Oh, yeah, I
babies.
do. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like I started using that on my lips many, many years ago. And I've always joked from the nips to the lips, there is no better lip balm than
Okay.
Lancino. And
Okay.
I'm just one of those people that has really, really dry, cracked lips. So I always slather on my lip balm at night. And if I don't do
Okay.
that, my lips are irritated. So I would
Okay.
have to say my nipple cream that works for my lips.
Okay. And we talked about lifting and sarcopenia as you age. Like you
Yes.
have to lift and build your muscle. But do you have like a wellness routine? You just seem so calm and zen and like the opposite of like my energy. Like I want more zen energy. Like what do you
Where is
have?
that?
Yes, do you have a meditation routine or something that keeps you like you're just so even? And I
Mm.
I want to get there.
Thank you. You know what? That's a great question. And yeah, I will tell you this. I have chosen this place in my life where and I have felt this shift ever since I left the news business. And then yeah, I don't know if you know, I re-entered the news business briefly when I worked
Dr.
for
Phil.
Dr. Phil's network
Yeah.
and co-hosted his morning show.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because I found myself getting all wound up again and getting all tight. And that was morning, and I was getting up very early at 4 o'clock in the morning, doing that, still doing all of this. And it just wasn't fitting where I was at this stage of my life. It wasn't honoring my age or my stage or my mental space. Backing off from that and realizing, I need rest. Rest is important. I need a fluid schedule, which is the beauty of what we do, is that we can create content whenever we want. It can be midday. I oftentimes, when my husband travels on the weekends, I'll use my weekends and I'll shoot a ton of content. So when he's home during the week, we can kind of relax, hang out, and play.
Yeah.
But I will
Okay.
tell you this, the most important thing, and this is something we do every single morning. My living room is behind me. We've got a corner of that couch where we tuck ourselves away, and we spend a good 45 minutes reading devotionals, reading the Bible, reading different interpretations, reading different books about faith and overcoming fear and trusting in the Lord and all of that. Because our marriage is rooted in God, you have to practice that, and that practice needs to be exercised daily. And I will tell you that when you kind of steep yourself in His Word as a believer, and you take that time and you read, and not only just read, but we'll talk, we'll analyze, we'll share, examples in our lives, or oh, this really landed on me today, or oh, this resonates, or oh, I can see that, and it not only brings you together as a couple,
Mm.
but it brings you to where you are supposed to be, and that's aligned with Him. The world, the noise, the busyness, the messaging can pull you farther and farther away. So you actively have to participate and be aligned. And I will tell you that more than anything is what centers me. It's my gravity, it's my home, and it's from which all things grow.
My gosh, that's so beautiful. And what a
Mm.
tangible tip. Like you start in the mornings, you pour your coffee, 45 minutes,
Yes.
and then a
Yes.
connection with your husband that comes from it.
Yes,
That's
it's
beautiful.
beautiful, it's beautiful. I
Thank you.
can't say enough about that ritual, I really can't.
Okay. Well, if anybody's under a rock and not following you, where can people go to get your podcast, your YouTube,
Oh,
your Instagram, all the things?
you're so kind. Well, Over 50 and Flourishing is the name of the podcast, and all of my social handles are at Dominique Sachse. It's a crazy name, Dominique with two I's, and then Sachse, like Sachse, socks on your feet with a S. Nobody knows how to pronounce it.
I
I've had
looked it up.
Sanchez, I've had Sage. You looked it up.
I always said
Um,
Seish until I interviewed you. I was like, well, I have to
yes,
hear you
yes, yes.
say it. If I'll call you Seish. Okay, good.
Okay.
Saksa.
Yes. Yeah, I'm everywhere, and I love having new people find me and follow me, and I'm very plugged into the community in the comment section. So I look forward to seeing you there and connecting with you.
Yes, this has been wonderful. I would just like you to be my life coach and do this every day.
Oh,
I
you're a
realize I
sweetheart.
can't have that. Let's end it. If there's a woman listening who
Mm,
just wants to level up and invest in herself, whether that be like her physical body, her career,
yes.
where would you tell her to even start?
Well, I would first have her look in the mirror and say to herself, "You are worthy." It boils down to worthiness. And do you believe that you are worthy of all things? Because all things are truly possible if you believe, truly believe that you are worthy. One thing that I wrote to, and I think that the deeper inner work takes time, which is why I guess I've always leaned on physical change because it's quick, it's instantaneous. It's that leap off of the high dive to do something different. And sometimes we need to show ourselves that we're bold and we're courageous. And that could be a new hairstyle, a new makeup look, trying new wardrobe, abandoning imagined fear, abandoning fear of what other people are going to say and think. You've got to get yourself out of that realm and that zone of putting too much weight on other people's opinions, which are, by the way, none of your business. So if you can now start expressing some of that bold risk taking, and not I don't mean like doing foolish things, I mean calculated risk taking, smart risk taking, but get outside that comfort zone. Show yourself that you can do it. Show yourself you're worthy of it. Start feeling that. Those smaller micro steps lead to bigger steps and bigger change. So I always say start there because it's easier and it's fun because it's tangible. You can see it and it's like, wow, okay, this is having impact. I'm ready for that next step.